Okay, so you have to understand how programming is very easy. Here is an example, a real world example of a human being programmed to do specific things. Okay? I programmed my dog. It's very easy to program a dog that doesn't have reasoning capability. Okay? Like, I just took my dog out. Now, I've programmed my dog like every 2 hours to go outside, to run around, to do whatever. And I programmed her for way back when I was studying the insurance exam for both life and health and property and casualty. So when I was studying, just cramming for that exam, and I had my dog who doesn't have a doggy door, who doesn't have the means to take herself outside, I would get up every couple hours and I would go and take her outside. And so she is programmed to get up in the morning at some point and go to the restroom. I even have her programmed, even to at my own detriment sometimes, to go outside and go to the bathroom around 10 o'clock at night. Okay? And so when I first got my dog, way back in 2015, I programmed her after every single time she eats, she needs to go outside and go to the bathroom and do whatever her business is. So she knows when she can go to the bathroom, when she needs to do her business, because I have programmed her to do that. I even programmed her to be invited to get on my bed. So that's why you hear her bark in the background, which I might have to get up and do that because, I'm not playing with her right now. I'm doing my stuff. I'm petting her right now. But I have programmed her to go outside even when she doesn't want to go outside because it's raining. But she doesn't know anything but what her programming has told her to do, which is to go outside around lunchtime, around midday, around mid afternoon, as well as in the evening at least twice. Okay? So I've programmed my dog to be to do the things that I need her to do so that way I can live a certain quality of life and so she can have a quality of life. Okay? So you have to understand that programming your genetics, programming your habits can come very easy. Now I can deprogram her if I want to from certain things, but I have no reason to because the programming that I applied to her works for my lifestyle. And when I had her on the J Juice, the programming that I applied to her has now become even easier because she doesn't have the anxiety. When I can leave for like, 8 or 10 hours like I did when I was working a couple years ago, and she was programmed to hold her pee and poo for like the 8 or 10 hours, and then when I come home she would go out and pee and poo. But so her system was able to be programmed to my schedule. And every time there's a change to my schedule, her system adapted to that. Now, I have left, for several hours and she's peed on the floor because she had to pee because I've programmed her for every couple hours or whatever to go outside. And for whatever reason, she probably didn't know that we are gonna because we came home really late, and so I think she peed on the floor that one time. But if she knows that we're here, she'll go outside. But I don't mind if she does pee on the floor occasionally if we leave. But when you go from one programming to another, there's going to be an upset of homeostasis, and that's the whole thing with the J juice. Is that when you're reprogramming your body, there's going to be an upset of homeostasis. There's going to be conflict with my programming current to your programming, concurrent to your programming, and you're going to have that transition. Okay? Programming and adaptation is the very essence of biodiversity. You can program plants to grow under specific conditions. Biotechnology and psychology has taught different people to program their students, to program, whatever intentions they want as far as the outcome, whatever purpose. When you're in the military, you're being programmed to follow orders without regard. That's what they do. That's what MK Ultra in the military is, where they break you down and build you back up. I went through the military. I went through Air Force basic training. I was crying when I was at basic training. There were girls that were having major issues with the new programming that they were having to deal with, which is very, very regimented, very, very strict guidelines. You get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to Reveille, and you hear the do 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 do, and you get up. And I program my body to be able to get up before Reveille, which is that alarm system that is like, trumpets and stuff, right? And got up and go to the bathroom, because right as soon as we had to get up, we had to go out and in formation and do calisthenics and then run a mile and a half. And before the programming, I would be, dashing from my bed into formation because I didn't get up in time enough to go to the restroom. And so I'd be running when I had to pee. I'm like, oh my God, having to, so I was actually, dealing with a transition from one programming to another in basic training. And granted, basic training in the Air Force is nothing like basic training in the Marines and the Army. Infantry and combat training is definitely way more intense than Air Force basic training. I tell you what, I don't think I'd want to do Marine Corps and Army basic training. But Air Force basic training was like doing PE. But I was crying throughout. I was a guide on, and I was one in the front leading the flight with the flag. That's what the guide on is. And then having my own steps when you had to take the flight here and take the flight, because they were all trying to line up to me, because I was the one that was the front lineup, and then they all had to go and fall in it. So I had specific steps that even I had trouble with, and I was always being yelled at. My hair was always like coming undone, and I wasn't cupping my hands, and all the different things that they wanted me to program. So even basic training is a program. So is the programming of going to school and working and all that. So programming happens in all facets and all different levels of society. And so when you realize that everything that you do is being programmed into you, then you realize you can reprogram your body. I programmed my body to sit and study the insurance exam, where it was repetition. Programming is repetition. Programming is learning the new process and then repetition. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And that's the same thing with a dog, it's the same thing with a human, the same thing with plants, biodiversity, with society. It's repetition. Okay? And so that's the same thing with the vaccinations. That's the same thing with all the different therapeutics and all the different things that are out there. They are programming your body to be able to handle a specific amount of life force and then deteriorate at some point. That's a programming. Okay? And so if I can bring it to the most accessible level, is when you program your dog to go to the restroom. To go when they go outside, that's a place where they go to the restroom, they run around, they do whatever they got to do. And then you bring them back inside, and this is where they can relax and chew on their bone or whatever. So there's proper places to do things. And so you train humans as well as animals the proper, appropriate actions for whatever environment they're being put into. Okay? And so I have the ability to reprogram my body to be able to release the excess, adapt to any new conditions, and have a very specific outcome, a very specific purpose. But it's knowing how chemistry and biochemistry works, is knowing how to program and work with the purpose of the body is to live, and then figure out what conditions that you can adapt to and what actions are appropriate for that time. And so when someone doesn't take to the programming, they're always going to be dealing with conflict. You realize on your Facebook you are not adapting to the new programming, you have conflict. When my dog was going through her upset of homeostasis, like, when there's a new virus in the environment, my dog feels it. But I recognize that her programming is being upgraded, and I don't, I realize that, that the J Juice is supporting her correctly, and she's just going through another upgrade. And so I make her calm throughout the process, and then she's fine. She's upgraded to the new atmosphere. Her body has upgraded to the new environment. And then I support her correctly with not only food, but with the J Juice. And she doesn't even need J Juice all that often. She needed it in the beginning because she had to reprogram the body to now be on a life trajectory, not on a disintegration process. So you have to realize that even vaccines are a type of programming that you can adapt to, that won't have any adverse reactions to, that you won't have any really major adverse reactions or have a predictable death outcome. Okay, so programming is no different in the computer world than it is in the biotechnological, advancement world. It's a programming and using the correct chemistry, the correct elements, so the body and the mind and the spirit can take to the new programming and still have a predictable, life-giving outcome. And so if you have any problem with my information, it means that your programming is having a conflict with my programming, and either you get to my programming or you stay within your own program and don't even do J-Juice. If you have an issue with my information, if you have to debate, if you have to go and try to counter my information or pretend that you're adapting to my information by saying, oh yeah, I knew what you're saying, but then you still keep doing your own programming, I get it. There's a conflict there. But I see the conflict. I see the words that you use when you characterize your microbiome. Naughty versus nice, good versus bad, poison versus not poison. Whenever you make a judgment call on any person, place, or thing, you have a certain programming that's conflicting with mine. So when I get triggered by people to cause me to not only react, but to point out the words that they're using, is because I realize that you are coming from a programming that I don't really have any relationship with. I mean, I do, but I don't. I recognize that you're still caught in the duality programming, and I'm trying to get you out of that duality programming. No different than my dog having to upgrade to the new programming of our society as far as the environment. No different when my dog, when I leave for like 5 or 6 or 7 hours, she may have an issue with the programming of me being gone for a certain amount of time. But if it's just once in a while that I'm gone for 5 or 6 hours, then yeah, she may have a mistake here and there, but whatever, I don't worry about it. I just know that she has not been able to take to the new programming because it was a quick implementation of it. So you just understand what programming is. It happens in biodiversity, and it also happens in technology. All right, bye.